Let me ask you something. How many of you are done playing small? How many of you are tired of watching success happen to other people while wondering, when's it my turn? I'm here to tell you, success isn't magic. It's not luck. It's a set of skills. And if you master them, you can build the life you were born for. These 7 skills aren't optional. They're essential. You must develop them because when you do, you stop reacting to life and you start creating it. You ready to take control? Then let's go. Success isn't this mysterious force that chooses some people and ignores others. It's not about luck, background, timing, or even raw talent. Those things might give someone a head start. They're not the foundation of lasting success. Real long-term success is the result of patterns, repeatable behaviors, skills, disciplines, and decisions that build upon one another over time. If you want to be successful, first shift you need to make is to understand that success is not something you hope for, it's something you engineer. What separates someone who consistently achieves, creates impact, and grows their influence from someone who doesn't isn't just hard work. It's not random chance. It's not even intelligence alone. It's skill. And more specifically, it's a learned set of core skills applied consistently with intention. These skills aren't flashy. They're not always taught in school, but they're always present in the lives of high achievers, top leaders, extraordinary performers, and those who consistently break through barriers and create something meaningful. You look at someone who's successful, someone who built a business, turned their life around, leads a powerful team, or just radiates fulfillment and control. What you're really seeing is a set of invisible competencies they've developed over time. They've built internal muscle, not just mindset, but actual capability. They've conditioned themselves to think a certain way, act with precision, and stay focused under pressure. These people don't leave life to chance. They've trained for it. They've prepared for the moment before it arrived, and that's the difference. The truth is success has a structure. It has architecture. It has principles that when followed and mastered, produce predictable outcomes. If you plant an apple seed, nourish it, and give it sunlight, you're going to grow an apple tree. Not maybe, not if you're lucky, not if the economy's good. You're going to get an apple tree. And it's the same with success. If you develop the right skills, put them into consistent practice and align your behavior with them, you're going to produce results. Not always overnight, but always over time. The problem is most people are never taught what these skills actually are. Told to work hard or follow your passion. And while those things aren't bad, they're not enough. What you need is a foundation, a tool set. Skills that work when you're excited and when you're exhausted. Skills that guide your decisions when you're unsure, that build momentum when motivation fades, and that bring clarity when things feel chaotic. The kind of skills that don't just help you achieve success, but help you sustain it. You see, most people think success is an event, some breakthrough moment, a deal, a raise, a goal hit, but it's not. Success is a process. It's a rhythm. It's a set of repeated actions driven by the right internal wiring. Think of it this way. You don't become confident by getting a result. You become confident by developing the skill of follow through of doing the hard thing even when you don't feel like it. You don't build influence by networking once. You build it by mastering how to communicate your value, how to listen deeply, how to lead conversations. You don't stay resilient by hoping things go your way. You stay resilient because you've trained your nervous system to handle stress, adapt, move forward no matter what. All of that comes from skill, not hype, not luck, skill. And what's powerful about skill is this: it's not emotional. It doesn't care where you came from, what you've been through, or how many times you failed. Skills don't judge you, they simply wait to be developed. And once you build them, they serve you over and over again. They make you stronger, faster, more focused. They allow you to do in a week what others take a month to do. They compress time. They expand your opportunities. They multiply your options. Now you might ask, this is true. Why don't more people learn these skills? The answer is simple. Because most people are addicted to outcomes, not processes. They chase the next dopamine hit of success instead of committing to the mastery of the skills that produce it. They dabble, they start and stop. They seek inspiration instead of building internal infrastructure. But those who win long term, they build the engine, they build the machine, they learn what works, they apply it, they refine it, and they never stop improving it. Because they know that's where the real leverage is. So when we talk about the 7 skills you must have to become successful, we're not talking about personality traits or genetic gifts. We're talking about trainable, repeatable competencies that anyone, yes, anyone can develop. Whether you're 18 or 58, you're starting from scratch or reinventing yourself. These are the skills that will allow you to lead more powerfully, execute more efficiently, and live more intentionally. And the beautiful part, once you've internalized them, can take them from you. Not the market, not a job loss, not failure. You carry them with you everywhere you go, and they serve you in every domain of life: career, business, health, relationships, purpose. So get this: success is a learnable pattern. Only if you stop chasing the result and start building the skill set. That's what this is about. That's what we're going to unpack. Because the moment you take responsibility for learning and applying these 7 core skills, your life doesn't just change. It starts to compound. Momentum builds. Confidence, clarity expands, and you stop reacting to life and start creating it. Are you ready for that shift? Because if you are, the next step is learning what those 7 skills are and how to master them. Let's go. There's a common misconception in the personal development world that motivation is the holy grail. People chase after it like it's the fuel they need to finally act, to finally build, to finally become something more. But here's the truth. Motivation is cheap if it's not paired with capability. Motivation gets you moving, but it doesn't keep you growing. It fades. It wears off. It comes and goes. If you're relying on it alone, your results will be inconsistent, your progress will be erratic, and your confidence will never stabilize. You don't need more hype. You need more skill. Let's think about this clearly. Someone wakes up and says, today I'm going to change my life. That's motivation. But when they wake up on day 30 tired, stressed, and unexcited, and still move forward, that's skill. Skill is what anchors you when motivation has evaporated, carries you through the valleys of self-doubt, distraction, and emotional exhaustion. Skill is the quiet force behind every visible success story. It's what professionals rely on when the lights are bright and the pressure is high. It's not glamorous, but it's reliable. And in the real world, reliability beats excitement every time. This is why focusing on building skill over seeking constant motivation is such a powerful shift. Most people spend their lives in search of another burst of inspiration, another video, another quote, another external push. But successful people understand what matters is not how high you jump when you're inspired, how consistently you climb when you're not. And climbing takes tools. It takes structure. It takes developability. You wouldn't try to play a piano concert by watching motivational videos about music. You'd have to learn how to play. You'd have to sit down day after day and practice, learn scales, build finger strength, learn the theory. It would take effort, yes, but more importantly, it would take skill development. And once you built those skills, you could sit down and play without someone cheering you on. You'd be self-powered. The same applies in business, leadership, health, relationships, any arena of life that requires excellence. You don't get successful because you want it badly. You get successful because you can consistently execute under pressure, under stress, under uncertainty. That only happens when you've built the capabilities required to sustain effort, not just start it. Let's look at an example. Say someone wants to become financially free. They watch motivational content. They feel empowered. They say, this is it. I'm changing everything. That's a great moment. But unless they also learn the skills of money management, delayed gratification, value creation, negotiation, and strategic thinking, nothing changes. The feeling wears off, and they're right back where they started. Why? Because the motivation wasn't paired with capability. Wanting something doesn't create it. Knowing how to get it does. In another example, think of an athlete. It's not motivation that gets them to the top. It's repetition, coaching, technical precision, emotional control, conditioning, and awareness. Those are all skills. And if you pulled back the curtain on any top performer in any field, you wouldn't find someone who's constantly motivated. You'd find someone who's well-trained, someone who has mastered the fundamentals so completely that they can execute without overthinking, without needing emotional fuel. They don't need to get fired up every morning. Their skill set has become second nature, and that's what sets them apart. Here's the powerful part. Skill can be built by anyone. You don't need to be born with it. You don't need special circumstances. You just need the willingness to trade short-term excitement for long-term mastery. That's the key. Most people want to feel good now, but those who rise above are willing to feel uncomfortable now so they can become capable later. That's a different mindset. That's the difference between dabbling and becoming dangerous in a good way. You've built a skill. You're not at the mercy of your mood. You can act even when you're tired, stressed, or uncertain. And that's what allows you to outperform others, not because you're smarter, but because you're more trained. Let's say you want to be a leader. Motivational energy might get you to speak up in a meeting, but leadership skill is what helps you navigate conflict, inspire others, coach performance, manage your own reactions when things don't go according to plan. Those are not emotional traits. They're learnable, repeatable, and coachable. You can build those abilities brick by brick, day by day, just like you would train a muscle. Use them, the stronger you get. And over time, those skills compound into real influence, real impact, and real confidence. It's also worth noting that motivation often comes as a result of skill, not the other way around. Think about it. Do you feel the most confident when you're guessing or when you know what you're doing? Most people get motivated after they've achieved progress, after they've seen results, after they've proven to themselves that they're capable. That's not random. That's cause and effect. Progress breeds motivation, and progress only comes from applied skill. So the question is not, how do I stay motivated? That's a weak question. The real question is, skills do I need to build so I can perform whether I feel motivated or not? That's a powerful question. That's a question that leads to change. Because once you know the skills and once you commit to developing them, dependency on motivation drops. You stop waiting. You start hoping, you start doing. And you start doing with precision, with consistency, and with clarity. That's when things change. That's when your goals stop being distant dreams and start becoming predictable outcomes, because now you're no longer guessing. You're no longer chasing the next hit of inspiration. You're operating from strength, from ability, from control. Remember, this motivation might get you going, but screw it if you want to succeed, not just once, but again and again and again. You need to fall in love with building capability. That's the foundation. That's the edge. That's how you become unstoppable. There's a widespread belief that if you just hustle hard enough, if you grind day and night, if you outwork everyone, success will eventually find you. And while discipline and work ethic are absolutely essential, they're not enough by themselves. In fact, if you're not careful, hustle without direction becomes exhaustion. Effort without strategy becomes stagnation. The people who truly rise, the ones who create extraordinary results and sustain them, don't just work harder, they work smarter. And the reason they can do that isn't because they're more gifted. It's because they've developed mastery. Mastery is the difference between spinning your wheels and making measurable progress. It's the ability to focus your energy where it counts to make fewer moves with greater impact. Mastery means that while others are busy being busy, you're making strategic decisions that move you forward faster with less wasted effort. It's the precision of a surgeon, not the frenzy of someone trying to cut through a wall with their bare hands. Mastery is efficient power. Refined, practiced, intentional. This is why shifting from hustle to mastery is a game changer. Hustle culture glorifies being tired, being overwhelmed, being on the edge of burnout. It convinces people that if they're not constantly grinding, they're falling behind. What if you could get 5x more done in less time, not by working more, but by knowing more, by applying better skills, by choosing the right actions instead of just doing more of them? That's the power of mastery. Think about this. 2 people can work 10 hours a day. One is running in circles, handling tasks, answering messages, switching focus every few minutes, reacting to every little fire. The other has clarity. They know what the highest leverage activity is. They know when to say no. They've trained themselves to concentrate deeply, make fast decisions, and execute without hesitation. At the end of the day, both are tired, but only one is closer to their goal. Only one made meaningful progress. Why? Because one was operating from hustle and the other from mastery. Mastery isn't about doing more. It's about doing better. It's about understanding the why behind the what. You don't just take action blindly. You pause, you analyze, you refine. Time, that discipline compounds. You don't just learn how to move, you learn how to move effectively. And when that becomes your default, your results begin to multiply. This is especially important in today's world. Distractions are everywhere and speed is worshipped. Hustle tells you to say yes to everything, to move faster, to take on more. Mastery teaches you to pause, to filter, to say yes only to what matters most, and to say no without guilt. Because every yes is a no to something else. And when you truly understand the value of your time, your energy, your mental space, you guard it like a professional. You stop treating your life like an open inbox and start treating it like a mission. The reason many people never reach their full potential isn't because they don't work hard. It's because they never transition out of hustle mode. They're constantly reacting, constantly grinding, but never upgrading the operating system. Just like with any tool, using a dull blade with more force won't make the cut cleaner. It just creates more friction. Mastery sharpens the blade. It increases your capacity without draining your spirit. Let's break this down even more practically. In business, hustle might get your first few clients, but mastery, skills like strategic positioning, persuasive communication, value delivery, and emotional intelligence is what helps you scale. In health, hustle might get you to the gym for a few weeks, but mastery, skills like habit formation, nutrition literacy, time blocking, and recovery management is what keeps you consistent for years. In relationships, hustle might win someone's attention, but mastery, skills like empathy, active listening, setting, and conflict resolution is what builds deep connection and longevity. Every area of life rewards mastery, not just motion. You don't get rewarded for how many hours you were busy. You get rewarded for the outcomes you create. And those outcomes are directly tied to the quality of your thinking, the clarity of your actions, and the strength of your systems. That comes from developing mastery. This is where we bring it back to skill. You don't need to abandon hard work, but you need to direct it. You need to ask yourself, are the skills I'm missing that are making this harder than it needs to be? That's a high-level question. That's a question that saves years. Because when you identify the skill gap and fill it, the problem that used to slow you down becomes irrelevant. You don't need to fight the same battle over and over. You level up and move past it. That's leverage. That's real growth. Let's also talk about identity. Hustle creates an identity that says, I'm a hard worker. That's not bad, but it's limited. Mastery creates an identity that says, I'm a high performer. I do what matters. I get results. That's a more powerful identity. It doesn't just rely on how much effort you can give. It relies on how much clarity and capability you've built. It's sustainable. It gives you room to breathe, to think, to lead. It's not rooted in burnout. It's rooted in control. Here's the best part: mastery is learnable. You don't have to be born with it. You build it through focused learning, deliberate practice, and constant feedback. You study what works. You test. You refine. You adapt. Over time, instincts get sharper. Your choices get cleaner. You stop wasting time. You stop wasting energy. You operate like a professional, not because you have to, but because it's who you've become. So understand this: working harder is honorable. Working with skill is transformational. When you combine discipline with strategy, when you pair effort with insight, when you merge hustle with mastery, you become unstoppable. Because now you're not just doing more, you're doing what works. When you do what works over and over again with increasing precision, success becomes inevitable, not optional, not accidental, inevitable. of the most powerful truths you can ever internalize is this: skills compound over time. What begins as something small, a new behavior, a shift in how you think, a better way of making decisions, can over time become a massive advantage. It's not about one breakthrough or one big moment. It's about consistent development of a set of skills that, when used together, multiply each other's power. This compounding effect is what turns ordinary individuals into exceptional ones. Imagine a single skill, let's say effective communication. On its own, it's valuable. It helps you express yourself clearly, influence others, and navigate conflict. But now combine that with another skill, emotional intelligence. Suddenly, your communication isn't just clear, it's emotionally attuned. You can read the room, understand the unspoken, adjust your tone based on the energy of the other person. Those two skills together are far more powerful than either one on its own. Now add decision making under pressure. Now you're not just communicating and connecting, you're leading. You're able to analyze, to stay calm, to guide others through uncertainty. One skill builds on the next. That's what skill compounding looks like. That's how you create layers of strength, layers of capability, layers of performance that others can't replicate because they didn't take the time to build the foundation. Most people underestimate this. They treat skills like isolated tools, only useful in specific moments. But the truth is, when skills are developed intentionally and integrated into your daily life, they don't just add, they multiply. They create a kind of internal synergy where each one supports the others. Resilience strengthens focus. Focus enhances productivity. Productivity builds confidence. Confidence improves communication. And communication elevates your ability to lead. Round and around it goes. That's what gives you momentum. That's what builds power. And the beauty of compounding is that it works even when progress feels invisible. You don't need explosive results overnight. You need consistent, disciplined repetition. That's how skill is formed, not from occasional inspiration, but from daily integration. Every time you practice a skill, even in small ways, it gets sharper. You get better. You improve your ability to handle stress, navigate challenges, and capitalize on opportunities. And over time, what felt difficult becomes second nature. What used to slow you down now accelerates you. Think about someone learning to manage their time better. At first, it's uncomfortable. They're building new habits, setting priorities, saying no to distractions. But as they improve, they free up mental space. They stop being reactive. They start thinking ahead. Now, they're not just getting more done. They're thinking more clearly. Their decision-making improves. Their creativity increases, all because one skill, time management, compounded into other areas of life. Or take resilience. At first, it just helps you survive adversity. You bounce back from failure. But soon, that same resilience helps you take more calculated risks. It pushes you to grow. It allows you to handle bigger problems with less stress. And then you start to lead others through pressure. You become someone others trust in chaos. All of that started with one skill. That's the exponential nature of compounding. But here's the challenge in the beginning. The growth is invisible. You can practice a skill for days, weeks, sometimes months before you feel a major shift. That's where most people quit. They want instant results. And when they don't see them, they assume it's not working. But compounding doesn't reward the impatient. It rewards those who trust the process. Those who understand that slow progress is still progress, that invisible effort eventually becomes visible transformation. And when that shift happens, when the curve finally bends, everything accelerates. Suddenly, you're not pushing uphill anymore. You're being pulled forward by the momentum you built through practice. You make faster decisions. You connect with people more naturally. You perform under stress with clarity. That's the compound effect in action, and it doesn't stop, it builds. Most successful people didn't get where they are because they were perfect. They got there because they committed to developing the right skills consistently, knowing that those skills would feed and strengthen each other. Addicted to results, they were committed to capability. They didn't chase outcomes, they built infrastructure. And now they have a level of freedom, influence, and peace of mind that others envy, not because they were lucky, because they compounded the right actions over time. This principle doesn't just apply to professional life. It applies to every area. In relationships, for instance, learning how to listen deeply is one skill. When that skill is combined with honesty, empathy, patience, and boundaries, it creates a deep emotional connection that can't be broken easily. That's the difference between surface level interactions and meaningful, lasting bonds. Because you chose to develop more than one skill and let them support each other. Even in your personal growth, the compounding is real. Build self-discipline and you start waking up earlier, wake up earlier, and you have more time to read. Read more. You gain insight. Insight sharpens your perspective. A sharper perspective helps you make better choices. Those choices bring better outcomes. Better outcomes build confidence. Confidence improves your posture, your energy, your momentum. And now your whole life starts to feel elevated, all from a decision to practice one skill. That's the chain reaction that most people miss. It's not about mastering everything at once. It's about choosing one skill, starting there, letting it lead to the next. Each new capability becomes a force multiplier for the others, and eventually your daily actions aren't even conscious. They're automated, instinctive, embedded in who you are. You're no longer trying to be successful. You're operating like someone who already is. So if you want real lasting success, stop chasing the quick fix. Stop jumping strategy to strategy. Instead, zoom out, see the long game. Ask yourself, are the 3 to 5 core skills I can build this year that will make everything else easier? Start there. Go deep, practice relentlessly, integrate those skills into how you think, how you act, how you lead. Then let them stack. Let them support each other. Let them multiply. Because when you treat skill building not as a one-time effort, but as a lifelong investment, your growth stops being linear and becomes exponential. And that's the path to mastery. That's the path to sustainable, authentic, and unstoppable success. One of the biggest problems with how most people approach success is they stay stuck in theory. They consume information, gather ideas, and fill their minds with strategies, never move beyond that. They know what to do, but they don't do it. Or they try it once, get uncomfortable, and stop. Real transformation doesn't happen at the level of information. It happens at the level of application. It happens when you move from knowing to doing, from ideas to action, from potential to performance. And that's the gap most people never bridge. It's not a lack of resources. It's not a lack of intelligence. It's the absence of implementation. Because theory doesn't change your life, execution does. Success doesn't reward those who know the most. It rewards those who apply what they know with consistency, clarity, and intensity. And that's exactly what this principle is about. Turning ideas into real life behavior so your results can start reflecting your potential. Let's be real. If information alone were the answer, everyone would be successful. The internet is overflowing with tips, tools, techniques, and tutorials. You can Google how to start a business, how to lose weight, how to improve your mindset, how to lead, how to sell. But that's not the issue. The real issue is, are you actually doing it? Are you applying it? Are you testing it? Are you failing, learning, adjusting, and trying again? Because in the real world, applied skill beats theoretical knowledge every time. You could read 100 books on negotiation, but until you get into a real conversation, feel the tension, read body language, adapt your tone, navigate uncertainty, you haven't learned negotiation. You've only studied it. And that distinction is everything. Skill development demands engagement, not just observation. You have to step into discomfort. You have to risk getting it wrong. You have to be willing to feel awkward, out of place, unprepared, and still act. That's how you grow. That's how skill becomes real. You take it from your mind and run it through your nervous system. And that process is what most people avoid because it's not comfortable, but it's necessary. You don't get better by watching. You get better by doing. It's the same reason athletes don't just read about their sport. They train, they drill, they practice under pressure. They simulate game conditions because mastery lives in the body, not just the brain. High performers in business, leadership, health, relationships, they treat their growth the same way. They put themselves in environments where they can apply what they learn, get feedback, refine, and try again. That's the cycle that creates real strength. So if you want to become successful, you have to start measuring your growth, not by what you've learned, but by what you've used, by what you've integrated into your life. Ask yourself, what am I actually practicing today? What am I refining through repetition? Am I building experience in? If you're not applying something, you're not developing it. You might be inspired, but you're not improving. This is why real change feels different from temporary motivation. Motivation is emotional. It's a surge, moment of high. But transformation is behavioral. It shows up in your habits, in your routines, and how you think, how you act, how you respond to pressure. And none of that comes from theory. It comes from practice, from deliberate, consistent, focused repetition. Let's say you've learned about decision making under pressure. Great. But until you're in a real situation, when time is short, stakes are high, emotions are charged, and you make a choice based on what you've learned, you haven't developed the skill. You've only studied it. You don't want to be the person who sounds smart in conversation, but freezes when it matters. You want to be the one who delivers when the pressure is on. That comes from applying what you know, not just talking about it. And here's the other truth application reveals where your gaps really are. You might think you understand something, until you try to use it. That's when the truth surfaces. That's when you discover what's working, what's not, where you're strong and where you need to grow. Action is the best diagnostic tool. It gives you clarity. It gives you feedback. It shows you what needs to be fixed and gives you a reason to fix it. This is also where confidence comes from positive thinking, not from wishful beliefs, but from earned competence. When you apply a skill and see it work, even in a small way, you start to believe in yourself differently. You build trust with yourself. And over time, that trust becomes unshakable. You can figure things out, not because you read about it, but because you've lived it. That kind of confidence can't be faked, and it can't be taken from you. Another reason people stay stuck in theory is fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not doing it perfectly. But here's the reality: you don't get skilled without looking clumsy first. Every expert was once a beginner. Every master was once confused. The people you admire didn't start perfect. They started in motion. They made mistakes. They got feedback. They adapted. That's how they became who they are. You're not supposed to be great at the beginning. You're supposed to show up, to try, to stay in the game long enough to get better. The most liberating shift you can make is to stop seeing failure as evidence that you're not ready and start seeing it as proof that you're learning. Because every time you act, even if the result isn't what you wanted, you gain something, you built pattern recognition, you strengthened a muscle, you added data. That's what growth looks like. It's not always pretty, but it's always productive if you stay in it. So as you continue on your journey of success, make a decision. Don't just be a collector of concepts. Be a practitioner. Be someone who takes what they learn and test it in the real world. Someone who shows up with curiosity, courage, and commitment. You don't need to apply everything at once. Start with one idea, one skill, one behavior. Practice it. Make it part of your life. Then stack the next one on top. That's how real transformation happens. Not through information overload, through focused, applied effort. Because in the end, it's not about what you know. It's about what you've built, what you've lived, what you've internalized. That's what defines your future. That's what determines your results. That's how you turn potential into power. Not someday starting today. Success is not random. It's not a game of luck, timing, or chance encounters. It's not reserved for a chosen few. It's a process, a system, a structure, and most importantly, it's a pattern, a repeatable one. There's a phrase that holds incredible weight when understood fully. Oh, success leaves clues. That means if you study people who've created real, lasting success, people who've built businesses, shaped movements, come adversity, and created meaningful impact, you'll find common threads, shared behaviors, similar skill sets, consistent ways of thinking, deciding, and acting. And if you can identify those clues, reverse engineer them, apply them in your own life, you can reproduce the results. Not identically, but predictably. It's like a map. If 10 people start in different places but follow the same trail markers and walk the same path, they may walk at different paces or face different conditions, but they'll reach the same destination. The same is true with success. The most fulfilled, high-performing people across industries and backgrounds may look different on the surface. Under that surface, they've mastered a very specific set of capabilities. They've built a skill set that supports their mindset. And that skill set is what allows them to adapt, evolve, and rise in any situation. This isn't about copying someone's personality or mimicking their exact strategy. It's about understanding the core competencies that show up again and again among those who succeed. The internal architecture, the habits, the disciplines, the decision frameworks, the communication patterns, the emotional agility. These things aren't just nice ideas, they're real tools. And once you have them, you can use them anywhere. Whether you're launching a business, leading a team, navigating personal growth, or overcoming setbacks, these tools show up and make the difference. Now, what's incredible about this is that the clues have already been left for you. You don't have to invent the path from scratch. It's already been walked. The question is, are you studying it? Are you learning from it? Are you absorbing the patterns behind the success stories or just admiring them? Because if you're just admiring, you're staying on the outside. If you want to build something of your own, you've got to step into the mindset of a student and commit to learning how success works. This is where most people fall short. They consume content, they admire winners, they watch documentaries and read books, but they never extract the process. They don't ask, what did this person do day in and day out that led to this result? What did they say no to? How did they think when things weren't working? What skill did they master that gave them the edge? That level of analysis is what gives you the map. Because it shows you that what they built wasn't accidental, it was built on purpose. And that purpose was powered by skill. When you start approaching success like a builder, everything changes. You stop trying to manifest and start making things real. You stop waiting for inspiration and start looking for principles. You become more curious, more intentional. And you stop comparing yourself to others because you realize it's not about being them, it's about learning from them. It's about spotting the moves, internalizing the structure, and applying it in your own way on your own timeline. For example, study any successful entrepreneur. You'll see a pattern. They know how to communicate their vision. They can sell not just a product, but an idea, a belief, a mission. That's not charisma. That's a skill influence. You'll also see time management, decision making, the ability to focus under pressure, to delegate, to think long term. Each of these is a separate skill and each one can be learned. What looks like entrepreneurial instinct is actually a compound result of these skills being sharpened over time. Same in leadership. Great leaders are not born with magic DNA. They've developed emotional intelligence, clarity in crisis, the ability to listen without ego, the ability to make decisions when no one else wants to. They've built self-awareness. They've learned how to handle criticism and how to empower people. These are learnable. These are traceable. They're the clues left behind by those who've been where you want to go. And once you recognize that these skills exist, that they're accessible, that they can be practiced and refined, success stops feeling like something there and starts feeling like something you can walk toward. You don't have to be a genius. You don't need to get everything right the first time. You just need to commit to the path. Identify the clues. Study them, apply them, adjust as you go. That's what makes this process powerful. It's not about achieving perfection. It's about progressing with precision. When you treat success like a map, you don't panic. When you hit obstacles, you expect them. You know there's a detour. You don't beat yourself up for moving slower than someone else. You stay focused on the path because you understand the terrain. You've studied the route. You're not just hoping anymore, you're executing. Here's something else that matters. Once you start following the map, you begin to leave your own clues. Others start watching you. They start asking how you stay so clear, how you make decisions, how you lead yourself through difficult moments. Now you're the one offering value, not from theory, but from experience. You've built real insight. And that insight isn't just for you. It's a ripple. It starts to impact your team, your family, your community. That's when success becomes leadership, and leadership becomes legacy. This is the deeper reward of studying the patterns of those who've come before you. It's not about copying. It's about evolving. It's about learning faster, growing stronger, failing smarter. It's about collapsing time, because the mistakes you avoid by learning from others are just as valuable as the wins you create on your own. So remember this: success leaves clues, but it's your responsibility to collect them, decode them, use them. You already have access to the trail. The only question is whether you'll walk it, whether you'll step beyond admiration and into activation, whether you'll stop asking for shortcuts and start building the skills that create real, repeatable, authentic success. The map is there. The clues are there. The tools are there. The question is, are you ready to learn how to use them? Because if you are, success isn't just possible, it's predictable. And it starts not with a dream, with a decision to study, to apply, to grow, and to never stop refining the skills that carry you forward, one intentional step at a time.